Welcome into another edition of the Bird and the Bear podcast. Already at episode 6 of the season. The season is going by pretty quick. Already at week 5 of the college football season. Michael Knauff, Cameron Carriglio. And we're coming off a week 4 that was probably the most exciting week of college football to this point. There is a numerous amounts of big games and some upsets. And Cameron, what are your overall takeaways from week 4?
The Pac-12 is a lot of fun and also awful. It's unreal. I mean, they're out of the playoff. It's week 5 and they're done. I don't think at this point in time you can get in without being undefeated. Utah and Washington State were their last hopes. That Washington State game makes no sense to me. It won't make sense to me. That was a silly game.
I mean, when you're up 42-17 in the
49-17.
49-17.
And you're Washington State. 6 turnovers killed them, and so did allowing 507 passing yards to DTR.
Which I didn't think he was possible. Yeah, I didn't know he was had the capability of throwing for that many yards.
I think Washington State could still win 10 games. That might not even really affect them too much in the long run, because they're not going to commit 6 turnovers and allow 67 points probably ever again. That's just a weird game.
I mean, that game right there kind of is the icing on the cake from a week 4 that began with the Bourbon Street bomb with Houston and Tulane. And then we end, the week with UCLA, Washington State. So, but packed in between that, there was a good bit of storylines. And we can begin with right here in our backyard with Kyle Trask in Florida. Looked pretty good in his first career start against Tennessee, 20 of 28, 290 plus yards, 2 touchdowns, did have 2 picks, but overall commanded the offense pretty well. I think that's a shared opinion between the two of us.
I agree. The turnovers concern me, but it was also his first start since his freshman year of high school, so I think those will weed themselves out. Only one of those came when the game was in doubt, too. So late, he might have just been trying to make a couple things happen when he knew that Tennessee wasn't really going to threaten. The fumble was kind of his fault. Didn't really feel backside pressure. And looked like he almost tripped over his own feet or something on that play.
Yeah, he tried to get out to his left, and then he kind of stumbled a bit. And that's the only turnover that concerns me, just because it was when the game was tight, and there was room for him to scramble out. He just didn't move his feet quick enough there. But like you said, other than that, the 2 interceptions, they were on deep balls, and he was just trying to make something happen when the game was already decided pretty much.
Yeah, the first one wasn't a great read to me. He's tried to fit a ball in where there was no room. The second one, if that's caught, that's an NFL throw. But it wasn't, and it turned into a great play by the safety, so I'm not really concerned about that one very much at all.
Not at all. I mean, if Grimes makes that catch and it hit his hands, then, it's a touchdown, and we're talking about how Trask made an elite throw.
Yeah.
But aside from that, Florida's defense came to play, and
without CJ.
Which tells you, that Florida's pretty deep, especially on the defensive front.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Grenard is
elite.
He's one of the best defensive ends in the conference.
Now we have Brenton Cox. Rumor mills circulating that he's going to be eligible.
Which if he is, and Florida has him going into not necessarily. I doubt he'll be ready. He'll play against Auburn, but if he's able to play against LSU, that adds a whole different dimension to that matchup. And the linebacker is the thinnest area for the team, and that would be a huge boost in that position for the Gators. But so Florida 4-0 now. Obviously, Tennessee is, they're Tennessee.
Yeah, they might not win another game. Their other out-of-conference game is UAB.
Which isn't a cakewalk.
That's no cakewalk.
It's not a cakewalk.
That's a team that would beat Georgia State by 40, probably.
And who won
Georgia State, by the way, has lost to Western Michigan by 47 and lost to Texas State, who was winless in overtime last week.
So I think but via the transitive property, I think it tells you where Tennessee sits at this point. We're going to move on to another SEC team that is winning in a fashion that we would probably never expect from them. The LSU dropped 66 on Vanderbilt, but at the same time allows 38 points, 31 offensive points, but still, it's very unlike an LSU defense. Should we be legitimately concerned about their defense?
No, because their offense is so good, it doesn't really matter. That offense is variable. They're never really going to get caught because they can run. They just choose not to half the time now. I don't feel like it's Bama last year where their defense was a little bit weaker and their offense was a little bit one-dimensional, kind of like Bama is this year. I think Bama is weaker than normal this year. Granted, I still think they make the playoff, but I think LSU could very well beat them in the regular season. And that might be like a 52-48 Big 12 style shootout. Neither of those teams play outstanding defense this year, at least.
But do you think that outside of Alabama, that LSU has any reason to be concerned against any other opponents?
Maybe us, just because we've kind of been a thorn in their side the last few years. But even then, I could see that game being like 31-28 and them just out-shooting us, really.
That's kind of my prediction, too. It could be a lot like the 2015 game when it was like, 35-28?
Something like that.
And it could be very similar to that. But my only concern with LSU defensively is injuries. Michael Divinity's been hurt all year. Grant Delpit's banged up. I mean, those are some guys that they need to be healthy if they want to, at least allow that offense to continue to just outscore people.
And offensively, Terrace Marshall just had foot surgery, so they're not totally healthy in the receiving core as well right now. But they probably have a next man up style philosophy, and Jamar Chase was unconscious last week.
Yeah, what they did against Vanderbilt was stupid. I mean, they just went up and down the field like nobody's business against what we thought was a competent Vanderbilt defense.
Yeah, but this is the second time they've gotten absolutely torched so far. Purdue threw for over 500 on them. LSU could have thrown for quite literally as many yards as they wanted. Burrow had 398 and 6 touchdowns in 3 quarters.
Yeah, and LSU leads the nation in points per game right now.
They're damn near 60, aren't
They're at like 57.5. And they play Utah State this weekend.
Who they'll score on?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, though, to see how much Utah State can put up on them. Obviously, Jordan Love quarterback.
Say between 24 and 31.
Which, then they have a bye week. No, excuse me. LSU's off this week, and then they play Utah State next week.
Yeah, no, I was saying that game's not this week.
And then obviously it's us. So, but yeah, offensively, LSU is a juggernaut right now. And the other team in the SEC that really stood out this past weekend was Georgia. I mean, they get a big home win against Notre Dame, beat the Irish by 6 points. But it wasn't as easy as we thought, and a lot of media personalities thought. Notre Dame made this a game.
I was actually underwhelmed by Georgia. People all over the place are commenting on how Georgia just took over in the second half. Well, they did, but then they kind of let Notre Dame back into it. And if they had called that pass interference in the final play, we're looking at a fairly good chanced end zone shot to end the game. I don't think Georgia looked very impressive. I think Fromm is barely above average, at least in the offense they run. Kind of check down Charlie, which is not.
There was a meme that I had sent you earlier in the week, and it was the looking back meme when the guy's holding the girl's hand and looking back at the other girl, and it was Jake Fromm, a shorter pass, but he was looking back at an even shorter pass, and I was like, it's too accurate.
I mean, I'm not sure how far he can actually throw the ball because I'm not sure I've ever seen him try.
I mean, he threw the ball at the most 15 yards against Notre Dame in the air.
He threw that long out route that was probably about 25 in the air, but about 15 downfield. So their defense is legit. I think Notre Dame's offense is pretty solid.
Notre Dame was a lot faster than I expected them to be, especially defensively on the edges. I thought Georgia was going to be able to get the edge on them and just outrun them, but they defended a lot of screens and jet sweeps pretty well.
And Notre Dame played it close enough, it would not shock me if that doesn't take them out of the playoff picture. Because I think they should still be in the playoff picture if they went out.
Considering the schedule.
If they got blown out, then I'd say bye-bye, Notre Dame. But I don't know. This kind of gives them a reason late in the year if they're 11-1 to kind of argue about it.
I mean,
to say they hung with the third best team in the country.
And no one goes into Sanford Stadium and plays Georgia close. I mean, since Kirby Smart's been there, they haven't let a team be within even 14 points to them, let alone 6 in that stadium. And I agree. I was kind of underwhelmed by Georgia too, and we'll see what Georgia does over the next few weeks to kind of re-cement that they're a top 4 team. And right when we opened, you said the Pac-12 is stupid, and it was a complete conundrum with what Utah and Washington State did.
Anthony Gordon was on fantasy quarterbacks. That was pretty cool.
He
gave me 110 points.
That's just dumb.
I was losing by like 40.
It's the only reason you won.
Yeah,
it's literally the only reason you won.
I feel really bad for him. He had 3 turnovers. One was garbage time. And he was trying to lead him back down the field. 9 touchdowns and 570 yards should never lose you a game, ever, to anyone. Arizona State lost. They now have one against the Colorado team that just lost to Air Force. That was actually a really fun game. Probably almost no one saw it. It was on Pac-12. Utah losing to a third-string QB.
Who Fink looked good for USC.
Fink looked better than Daniels and Slovis. But Slovis looked really good against Stanford. So,
read into
who the hell knows?
Read into it what you will.
His deep ball's gorgeous, though.
Oh, him and Pittman were lighting it up.
Not that it ended up mattering, but I sat Pittman.
Which, at the time, was kind of heartbreaking for you.
Yeah, it was pretty heartbreaking.
But there is one undefeated team left in the Pac-12, and it's Cal. I mean...
And they're not a playoff threat.
Not at all. I mean, I know Ole Miss isn't anything special this year, but still, going across the country, playing an 11 a.m. start in Oxford, and winning at an SEC school, you got to take your cap for that. That's pretty impressive.
And their offense kind of came out of its shell. I mean, they only scored 28 points, which isn't overly impressive. That Chase Garbers had 360 through the air. It's not bad. He threw 4 touchdowns. And the defense showed up when they needed it to. They're lucky the Pac-12 crew did not review that at the end of the game. Although I've heard that they got it right because multiple camera angles have showed he was not in the end zone.
So obviously, like, a review should have been initiated just because of the magnitude.
It looked like he was in from the TV angle, but someone got a pylon angle. He wasn't. And that would have they would have scored on the next play if they had a review. They would have been able to line up.
It would have been like a half-yard line. So,
and I was also mistaken when I spoke to Matt Corral was not benched. He was injured.
He did get hurt?
Yeah.
Do you know the extent of it?
Ribs, I think. He's questionable this week.
Makes sense. I mean, why would they play?
Plumlee's played pretty well, though. So
yeah, and I wouldn't.
And they're not good. So
and you wouldn't want to force Corral out there against Alabama.
No.
But what brought most people joy this past weekend was UCF lost to Pitt on the Pitt Special. They're making shirts now about that.
It's kind of pathetic.
It is a little pathetic. I agree. And Pitt they blew a 21-point lead, and then had to come back down by, 10, 13?
I think it was 10.
In the fourth quarter. And, I mean, I think Pitt is actually a good team. They have not had an easy schedule to begin the year.
Pitt's an okay team.
In the Coastal, they're good.
In the Coastal, they're good. They were also good in the Coastal last year, and they went 7-7.
That tells you everything you need to know about the Coastal, yeah. But UCF had plenty of opportunities to put that game away, but Pitt's defense stuffed them in the red zone a few times. Even got that fourth down stop.
UCF did that twice, right? Where they could have kicked field goals and chose not to, and then didn't get it.
Yes, they did. Both in the second half, I believe.
I'm more impressed with Dylan Gabriel than anything else that went on that day.
He's a quarterback.
He's a hell of a quarterback. He made a few mistakes, but they weren't even really freshman mistakes. They were just mistakes that quarterbacks make.
It's like they were even like that monumental. They just couldn't run the ball consistently.
And I think that's the second game against Power 5 opponents in a row that you kind of see the offensive line wear down more than any other position. Because their skill guys can play with literally anybody. But I think the line might have gotten a little bit tired.
It's the size, too. They still don't have that.
Because you saw them start to wear a little bit on both sides towards the end of the game. They had that surge in the third quarter, and then they just couldn't seem to put the game away, and then it finally bit them.
Yeah, and first time UCF loses a regular season game since 2016. I mean, obviously people shit on them for the whole national championship that came in 2017, but you got to tip your cap to what they did. 27 regular season wins in a row. I mean, pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive for anybody.
So, but the most impressive win of the weekend may have been Wisconsin, who
impressive, but it surprised pretty much nobody.
Yeah, Wisconsin obliterated Michigan 38-15 at
35-14.
Was it 35-14? I don't know why I thought 38. But Jonathan Taylor, again, 200-plus yards.
And sat, like, the majority of the second quarter. He had 1 second quarter carry. He was already, like, 153 through a quarter.
That second touchdown he had was NFL-esque.
He's fast. I feel he got faster this offseason than I've seen him.
Yeah, he's got really good
more of a power back,
speed.
and now he's running away from people. Fuck. It's tuberculosis.
You got the Gainesville plague, Cameron.
Shea Patterson just doesn't impress me. That offense doesn't impress me. I think Harbaugh's on borrowed time. That's not a game where you lose that game and then win out. Like, they're like an 8-win team.
Yeah, their schedule
maybe even 7. Their schedule is brutal.
They still play Notre Dame, obviously Ohio State. They play Penn State,
Michigan State. That'll be a 7-3.
Ugh, that's
a gross game.
I don't even want to think about that. But yeah, I agree. I mean, 8 wins, I think, is their ceiling this year. And Harbaugh might be seeing his way out.
I need to stop reading Phil Steele. He was slobbering all over their knob preseason.
Everyone was.
Talked me into it.
Everybody was, man. You're not the only one who drank the Kool-Aid. But to an individual news, De'Aaron King, I'm sure you've heard, he's going to redshirt this year, rest of the season at Houston. Not necessarily going to transfer, but if you do have a move like this, I mean, odds are, yeah, you're going elsewhere.
Well, and I'm assuming the backup started, I think, 5 games last year, Clayton Tune. I'm assuming he's probably going to start. And he showed flashes last year of being competent, and now he's under an offense where he's a big white boy that can't run. He can run a little bit, but he's not De'Aaron King out there. And I think Holgorsen might know what to do with that a little bit more, which means that he could come in and earn the starting job. Their schedule is not overly brutal the rest of the way. They could win 6 more games, make a bowl. I don't know. It's going to be interesting because De'Aaron King honestly wasn't good this year.
He was very lackluster.
He was really not good. They were, I think, 98th or 99th in passing, 90-something in passing efficiency. I mean, how much worse can it really be? Their offense wasn't firing on all cylinders anyway.
And after the second quarter against Tulane, they did virtually nothing.
Oh, yeah. The second half was awful.
Just scored 3 points? And it was that field goal to tie the game up.
Yeah. And they had 85 second half yards. I mean, De'Aaron King threw for 130 in the first quarter and threw for 99 the rest of the game. That seems like a play calling issue to me. But he was also airmailing every deep ball he attempted, skipping guys on short routes. It was just ugly. He doesn't look good.
Yeah, I don't know if it's him coming off of injury
or ball, he still looks great. But throwing, he looks bad.
And it's ironic with the dynamic between him and Kyle Trask about how their careers now have kind of gone in different directions, considering how it.
The UGA.
Funny. I think that'd be kind of dumb on Mullen to have King come in as a
grad assistant.
Oh, an assistant.
Yeah. He wants him to quit football. Everybody thinking he's going to OU is just so stupid.
He's not good enough.
He's not. Yeah, he's not good enough. Tanner Mordecai, who's going to be their second string next year, ostensibly, is definitely better. And Rattler is going to be an absolute beast.
He was a monster in high school,
and they have at least 2 years of him. So I don't think they're taking any more transfers right now.
No, I think Arizona's kind of a likely landing spot for him.
Arizona or a shitty Texas school. I could see UTSA.
Why not? Yeah, you dominate.
I mean,
USA.
Fuck's sake, Francois ended up at Hampton. He's a better quarterback than Frank.
I mean, De'Aaron King didn't get accused. I know it was always.
Yeah, but he got cleared before he even really quit.
Well, Francois was dismissed from the team, and then was cleared. And they were like, "Well, we're not going to reinstate you now because we already let you off the team."
But still, I mean, the fact that you're cleared, you think some program with questionable scruples would have allowed him on the team.
Which is why it was such a surprise when FAU didn't sign him.
Well, they did. They were going to, and it just didn't work out. From what I've heard, it was more of his decision. But still, if he was going to end up at FAU, King is going to end up at something similar. Which, plus redshirting the middle of the season is probably not the best.
It's not a good look. No, not at all.
If I'm a senior on that team, I'm kind of pissed.
Yeah, what that does for a team morale when your starting quarterback basically quits in the middle of the year. I mean,
haha, see you next year.
Like, what do you do at that point?
What about Marquez Stevenson, their best receiver, who's been there all 4 years with him? Like, that's kind of hurt. Like, his reps will probably increase. He'll probably have better production now. But I don't know. It's got to suck.
Yeah. Well, they're not the only two that did that. Quarterman, the linebacker from Miami, same thing. Redshirting for 4 games.
I mean, as a fan, I'm not sure I'd mind it. You get another year of one of your best players, presuming he doesn't transfer. Side note: Miami's actually kind of a dumpster fire right now.
That
Central Michigan game was really bad.
I think they didn't gain a yard in the third quarter. I think is what I heard. They didn't have a positive yard in the entire third quarter.
It's not as bad as Marshall against Boise State. Did you see that?
I know it's ugly.
Marshall had 0 second half yards.
The entire second half.
The entire second half had 0 yards.
I mean, yeah, they were. It was a swing pass and just dives the entire second half from it. It was ridiculous.
Central Michigan lost 61-0 to Wisconsin, and they had their starting quarterback that day too. They were playing a backup against Miami.
Yeah, Miami is not. They're not what I think anyone thought they were going to be heading into the season.
I think it's still in the damn division.
If UVA implodes and it's wide open.
Yeah.
But we're gonna move on now to what is right now the saddest segment maybe of this podcast. Cameron's hot takes. He's 0-for to begin the year, 0-3. He thought he had BYU upsetting Washington last week, and that didn't work out too well.
No, Washington looked a lot more dominant than I pictured they would.
Yeah, they railroaded the Cougars, and Washington seems to have regained their footing after that week 2 loss to Cal.
Yeah, I agree.
But so Cameron, still trying to get you in the win column. You got a hot take for this week?
USC over Washington.
The Husky hate is real from you. Wow.
I mean, I just don't have any other ones I remotely like. I'm probably still going to pick Washington on the board.
I mean, USC's offense is dynamic enough to maybe keep up with Easton and Washington. I mean, the line for that game right now is 10.5, so Washington's a healthy favorite.
Or Kansas over TCU. I'm gonna go with Kansas over TCU.
You're gonna go. That's your official one. You're gonna lock that one in.
Yeah.
All right. So Kansas could have a winning record at week 5 if they beat TCU. Well, I wonder what the deepest Kansas has gone to in this decade with a winning record.
Like 1-0. Honest to God,
It's probably like I can't think of a time when they were like even 3-2 at all.
I can't either. I think last year they were 2-1.
Yeah, they were 2-1 and then they lost out. So we're gonna move on now to the games for this week, week 5. Not as many eye-popping games as last week, but there's a fair amount of games that are going to be solid. And we'll start on Thursday night when 2 undefeated AAC teams play as 2-0 Navy travels to Memphis to battle the Tigers, who are 3-0 on the year. Memphis is a 10.5-point favorite. And I haven't been able to see Navy play at all this year, but Memphis offensively has kind of picked up the pace after a sluggish week 1.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really don't know much about Navy. I know they've blown out an FCS team in East Carolina. Doesn't really tell me a whole lot.
Who should basically be an FCS team at this point.
I'm going to take Memphis just because I've seen more of them, and they have more of a track record right now.
I agree.
They could very easily be wrong. Very, very easily be wrong.
Navy hasn't played anybody yet.
It's just a smart pick to take Memphis.
I would take Memphis as well. To Friday night, a pretty quality Pac-12 showdown. Arizona State goes to number 15 Cal. Cal is a 5.5-point favorite. And throw this one up in the air with the way the Pac-12 is.
I like Cal here just because I feel like they're a better version of Arizona State.
You said that last week, that you felt that Cal was a slightly more offensively competent in Arizona State.
Well, Arizona State actually played offensively competent last week, and their defense finally let up. I like what I'm seeing out of Cal.
I think they got something going too. I think that they'll win 8 or 9 games this year.
I think they might win more.
Over 9.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's feasible.
They gotta play the North, though. That's the only thing that I feel that might...
Nobody in the Pac-12 is bulletproof, though.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, obviously we've seen that through 4 weeks already.
Bowl. That would be something.
That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Though I take Cal here too, just because of the way, especially their defense has been playing. I don't think anyone's going to be able to score more than 24 points on them.
No, unless you get offensive screw-ups.
So we're going to move to the Saturday slate. Texas Tech heads to Norman to battle number 6 Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 27.5-point favorite, and I think that Oklahoma is
They're gonna cover.
They're gonna cover because T-Tech is bad.
Well, I don't know if T-Tech's really that bad. They're just kind of settling into the new system, I think. But their quarterback's out. So
poor Alan Bowman.
I know he can't catch
2 years in a row.
This one's not as bad. They think he'll be back their next game. But I don't know.
Oklahoma's gonna drop.
A juggernaut.
They're gonna drop 50. Yeah, easily. To another Big 12 game, your hot take, Kansas goes to TCU. The Horned Frogs are a 15.5-point favorite.
Seems slightly ridiculous to me.
I agree, especially after the way TCU lost to SMU last week.
And SMU might actually be quite good, but that still doesn't look good.
No.
It's a home game.
Yeah, it's because they're playing in Fort Worth, so I don't buy this line, and Kansas...
They look competent.
Compared to previous Kansas teams, yeah.
I mean, they barely lost to West Virginia, but West Virginia is also probably not very good.
And offensively, West Virginia they showed, like, NC State was kind of their coming out party, I think, and they kind of built some momentum off of that. But I'm going to take TCU just because they're at home and Kansas hasn't proven enough to me yet.
No, I took TCU on the board. But
I totally get your logic, though. Thinking that Kansas can win this one. Moving on to BYU at Toledo. BYU's a 2.5-point favorite, and this could be a slugfest.
Yeah, I think Toledo wins, though. They ran all over Colorado State last week. In a night game in Colorado State, so that's tough time change-wise. And I'm not sure how BYU is going to respond to being throttled last week at home. So I like Toledo here.
I'm going to take Toledo as well. I just don't like the way BYU responded after kind of the big win against USC, but too much of a hangover against Washington. And like you said, Toledo, their ground game's pretty explosive.
They ran for like 400-something yards against Colorado State.
Who isn't an elite defense by any means.
No, but still, that's impressive. I don't care.
400-plus yards on the ground is quite commendable. Moving on to one of the 2 ranked matchups of the weekend, number 18 UVA goes to number 10 Notre Dame. Notre Dame a 12.5-point favorite. And it's an interesting line because defensively UVA is pretty elite, but offensively they're inconsistent as it gets.
I like Notre Dame here and to cover. I liked Virginia a little bit more before that Old Dominion year loss.
I think that
was a sandwich game.
Yeah, because
a team that knows how to upset people.
Because obviously coming off of an emotional win against Florida State the week before and then looking ahead to Notre Dame. I mean, UVA, they got the job done. I think that Notre Dame comes in with a bit of a hangover in the first half, and UVA might keep it within a score in the first half. But when third quarter, fourth quarter come, I think Notre Dame is going to end up winning by anywhere between 10 and 13 points. To the other ranked matchup, USC, ranked 21st after their big win over Utah last week, heads to Seattle, battle number 17, Washington. Washington, a 10.5-point favorite. And this game, I feel like Washington's either going to thrash USC or this could be a pretty tight affair.
I think if USC loses, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for Helton, whether that's fair or not. Slovis is still in concussion protocol, so it's Fink's show. And, I mean, people thought that Utah's secondary was about as good as Washington's, and they didn't really have many problems. I could see this game being higher scoring than one would think from Washington, at least. But I think Washington comes away with the victory.
I do too. It's tough to go to Washington and come out with a win. And with the way Jacob Eason's been playing, I think he'll be able to throw all over USC. And USC, I don't think will be able to keep pace with Washington. I think Washington will cover.
Yeah, I agree.
So the Big Ten, Indiana goes to number 25, Michigan State. Michigan State's a 14-point favorite. And it's kind of a weird game.
I don't know if part of me really thinks Indiana might win.
I thought when I saw this game too, I thought the same thing. And
why is Michigan State ranked again?
I tweeted this out, but the fact that Michigan State is ranked is really disrespectful, I think, to Wake Forest, who I think deserves to be ranked at this point, at least 25th.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if Indiana can go to Lansing and pull it off.
They've done this kind of crap before, though.
They have. And I don't know. I'm still going to take Michigan State, but it's going to be like 21-17, something like that.
I would agree.
Speaking of Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons travel to Boston College. Wake is a 7-point favorite, and I know BC lost to Kansas, but this is kind of a test for Wake Forest. I think
Wake passes. I think they're offensively good enough. I think their defense is just barely good enough. I'm not sure how BC is going to respond to that Kansas game. And Kansas was having great success throwing the ball when they needed to, and they ended up not really needing to very often. Wake Forest can exploit that with Washington and Surratt. So I like the momentum Wake Forest is building right now, and I'm going to take them.
I'm going to take a pause from the games here. I'm going to ask you, Jamie Newman, outside of Trevor Lawrence, is there a better ACC quarterback than him?
Statistically, he is the best right now.
Yeah, no, he leads the league in all major passing categories, yeah.
I'm not going to take him over Lawrence right now, but if you put up numbers and just told me to pick one, I'd pick his. He's torched everybody. He's thrown for 300 plus comfortably in 3 out of 4 games. The other was against UNC, who has a fairly competent defense. And I think Steve just found a bug. Yeah, I'm impressed by him. I was impressed by him at the end of last year, so this doesn't exactly shock me that he's had so much success. But it's good to see Wake.
It's fun.
It's 11-1. Honestly, looking at the remaining schedule, it's not.
I mean, they play Clemson in week 10, week 11, something like that, which probably gonna be a loss. 95% chance that it's gonna be. But yeah, the rest of their schedule. I mean, the Atlantic is weak. It's outside of Clemson and Wake, the Atlantic's as bad as the Coastal.
Yeah.
Gonna move to the Big 12 again. Kind of a sneaky good game between Iowa State and Baylor. They're playing in Waco, but Iowa State's a 3-point favorite. But Baylor's offense is explosive. They're top 10 in the nation in points per game.
Are they really?
Yeah,
they only had 21 points against Rice last week.
Yeah, no. I can actually pull it up right now. Baylor's 10th, 46.7 points a game this season,
and that's with a relative egg against Rice. I like Iowa State. Brock Purdy threw for 435 last week.
6 total touchdowns.
Yeah, I like those numbers.
Yeah, and Iowa State defensively, if Rice held Baylor to 21 points, I think that Iowa State can manage that.
I do too.
And I think Iowa State, they'll cover.
I don't think Iowa State gets phased by road games.
No, they really can go into anywhere and get the job done.
I mean, when they upset TCU, when TCU was like 4th or 5th in the country, that was on the road, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was. And they went in Norman.
Yeah, they went
and won too, so. Iowa State, this game is not going to face them.
It's a well-coached team.
Oh,
both of these teams are actually very well-coached teams.
And Baylor honestly has rebounded way quicker to the NCAA sanctions that they received than I thought they were.
Rule is a hell of a coach, and they found stability quicker than I think they were banking on.
Which it's good to see, to a program to be able to bounce like that. The Big Ten, 3-0 Minnesota. How they're 3-0,
They could very well be 0-3.
I don't know. Travels to Purdue, and this is basically a pick on Minnesota's a 1.5-point favorite.
If Purdue has Sindelar, I pick Purdue. If they don't, I pick Minnesota, and we don't know that yet.
Yeah, that won't be decided probably until kickoff.
Yeah.
And if Sindelar is playing for Purdue, then I think Purdue handles Minnesota. Because Minnesota hasn't won a game by more than 7 points this season. And that was against South Dakota State.
Mediocre teams. So I don't know. Minnesota strikes me as one of those teams that has a bit of magic this year. There always seems to be one of those teams. You look up and they're like 9-3. We've done that a couple times. The UL Lafayette.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like every game was like Minnesota's doing right now. But yeah, if they haven't announced it already, I'm gonna go ahead and assume Sindelar isn't playing, so I'm gonna take Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of I have to agree with you on your point outright, just because Purdue outside of Sindelar at quarterback is abysmal, and Minnesota just the record is 3-0. They find ways to win games. Moving on to a Power 5 matchup between Cincinnati and Marshall. Group of 5. Wow, that's kind of
Power 6.
Power 6. Cincinnati's in the Power 6. But Cincinnati goes to Marshall. Both teams 2-1. Cincinnati a 3.5 point favorite. This game could be fun.
This is a pick'em game. Neither of these teams have really impressed me so far. Cincinnati got thrashed by Ohio State. Marshall had that egg against Boise State in the second half. I'm going to go with Cincinnati just on conference prestige because I feel like they're pretty evenly matched. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if Marshall wins this game.
Yeah.
The line backs that up that no one really knows.
I think Marshall will pull it out. I think Cincinnati's a little bit overrated this season.
I think Ohio State quieted that. Pretty much snuffed them out.
Yeah, they exposed them pretty hard. To the SEC, and for Auburn, this might be a bit of a hangover game. Mississippi State's 3-1 goes to number 7 Auburn. Auburn's a 10.5 point favorite, and in my opinion, I'd bet Mississippi State, maybe not to win, but against the line here, and I think that's pretty easy money.
I'm actually going to take the over.
Really?
Yeah, Mississippi State hasn't really done a whole lot for me yet this year. They beat Kentucky pretty bad, but Kentucky played really poorly last week. And Auburn doesn't strike me as a team that's really going to look ahead too much. So I got Auburn here.
I just like Kylan Hill. I think that he can, if Mississippi State's able to establish some sort of semblance of a ground game with him and control the clock.
A&M couldn't.
I think, but they don't have a back that's to Kylan Hill's ability. I think Kylan Hill is the first or second best back in the SEC. Well, and then on the flip side, obviously Auburn has the best defensive front in the entire nation.
Yeah.
So it'll be. I just want to see what Auburn's offense can do again in consecutive weeks.
Nick's really hasn't been good.
He's been the definition of a game manager.
Yeah. And
that's all right now I think Gus Malzahn can ask of him. And I think this is going to serve as a tune-up game for Auburn, and we'll see just how tuned up they are before going to us. I like Auburn as well, but I think it'll be a little closer than what you think. So the Big 12, Kansas State, who's ranked 24th, goes to Oklahoma State. This game is on ESPN Plus. It's not even on a network.
That's ludicrous.
It's on ESPN Plus.
Reddit.
Well, yeah, obviously, but still, the fact that I'll tell you what the ESPN2 game is instead of this. UConn at UCF.
Why do people even bother to pay for cable? I mean, I'm okay with it because the streamers can still do their thing. It's not even Reddit anymore. But that's just stupid.
I don't get that decision at all. I mean, okay, UCF maybe, but they're playing like Temple. Put it on, but like not UConn.
Yeah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, it's actually a game
I'm going to say, that's going to be a fun game, yeah. This game could just be points.
I think Kansas State will hold them within 35, though.
You think they'll win?
No. I think it's going to be like 30-24, 31-27, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State had opportunities to beat Texas.
They very easily could have. And Texas kind of stagnated in the fourth quarter against Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
I'll agree. I'm gonna take Oklahoma State too. I just think offensively they're a little bit too explosive for Kansas State, and I don't think that Kansas State will be able to score enough. So we're gonna move on to the Big Ten, which preseason this looked like a fun game, but right now very different story. Ohio State travels to Nebraska. Ohio State's a 17.5-point favorite. I might take the over. I'd take the over on that.
I'm taking it. Nebraska show me nothing. I mean, they outgained Illinois by ridiculous. 599 to 290 or something, and almost lost. I think they had 4 turnovers. That's not going to get it done against Ohio
Especially
State.
Against an Ohio State team that is...
Watch Nebraska pull the upset. Ohio State's done this before, where they've gone into a team that has no business beating them and lost. And Nebraska matches that description of a team that they could lose to easily.
And you know that the Cornhuskers are going to show up. I mean, that place is going to be rocking that night. And you're right. This is the kind of environment that Ohio State tends to falter in. I mean, Purdue, a night game at Purdue last year. Year before that, at Iowa.
That was a day game.
But still, that place was insane.
Wild.
Yeah. So, I think Ohio State's going to get it done. But I agree with what you're saying that Nebraska can make it interesting.
I honestly think it's going to be 49-17 or Nebraska beats them. I don't think there's any in between.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Either Justin Fields is going to account for...
I'm still waiting for him to really be unleashed throwing the ball. They haven't done that yet.
Yeah, I mean, they've been up by...
Yeah,
they haven't needed to do it all. And he's in the time that we've seen him, he has looked very good.
Yeah.
I think Georgia's going to regret letting him transfer. To the ACC, NC State goes to Florida State. FSU's a 6.5-point favorite. And I think Willie Taggart, this is a pretty important game for him and his standing as Florida State's head coach.
I'm assuming Hornibrook probably starts, and I think he brought some stability to quarterback position. NC State hasn't really looked great each of the last 2 weeks. I'm going to take FSU here as much as I hate to say it.
I'm going to as well.
FSU looks better this year to me. Or at least the last few games.
Especially on the offensive side of the ball, I think they've got something.
I think Baby Bryles is the next head coach. Him or Stoops.
Bob Stoops or Mark? I would hate it if it's Mark Stoops, man. I wouldn't like that. I mean, it'd be great for them, but it'd be terrible for us.
I mean, it would be a wash for us because I'm assuming Kentucky would return to irrelevancy.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have Kentucky be relevant than Florida State.
Yeah, no, hands down. And I think Florida State will pull it out, too. I think it could be decisive.
Yeah.
The final game of the weekend that we'll cover here. This was a game I was so excited for before last week. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I think it'll be fun regardless, but this would have had much bigger implications had last week not happened. Washington State goes to number 19 Utah. The Utes are a 5.5-point favorite. And this is kind of a polar opposite style of offenses playing against each other here. Washington State obviously air raid, but Utah defense first kind of team is going to grind it out on the ground. But basically Zach Moss done. He's not playing for. He's done for Utah.
What do you mean done?
He's broke his elbow. He's hurt. Yeah, no, he's out, man. He's on my fantasy team, and he has a big old O next to him.
I like Washington State here. Revenge game. We already saw what the secondary did the secondary struggled against Matt Fink. So I like Washington State bounce back.
I do too. But to clarify, Zach Moss, it's a left shoulder injury, not his elbow. Excuse me. He is out this week. That is for sure, though. But I'll take Utah. I'm going to take Utah. I think that playing at home, and I think their defense is going to be able to limit Washington State enough. And I think Utah's offense is a little bit more competent than UCLA, and UCLA was able to take advantage of a tired Washington State defense. And I think late in the game,
kickoff, return, touchdown, 6 turnovers.
I don't think Washington State's going to turn the ball over 6 times again, but I think Utah's still going to force some turnovers.
No, I can see it.
So that'll do it. That's the final game of the week that we'll talk about. Not as big of a list as usual, but at the same time, it's not really...
We're tired.
Yeah. It's been a long week. This semester's already kicking our asses, but college football kind of keeps it going for us.
A little bit. Spring won't be fun.
No. Seriously, next week is going to be a lot of fun, though, with Auburn coming to town here. And there's a lot of other pretty good-sized games that weekend across the country, so it'll be fun to break down this week and then look forward to next week come next Wednesday or Thursday. So for Cameron Carriglio, I'm Michael Knauff. Be sure to go and subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bird and the Bear CFB on YouTube. And be sure to like us and subscribe. And take a look at all of our other podcasts. This is a 6th episode already, kind of hard to believe. But we're getting through it, almost halfway through the college football season already. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one.